Hugh Jackman and Deborra-Lee were one of Hollywood's most talked-about couples for almost 30 years. For years, Hugh openly praised his wife and said that their marriage was one of the most significant aspects of his life. Then, everything was different. Why didn't she say something right away? What went on behind closed doors before their divorce? And why has she been so impacted by Hugh's alleged plans to get married? Come along as we explore the reasons for Deborra-Lee's quiet and the information she might be prepared to share at last. Remember to like, subscribe, and stick around until the very end. The wedding news: Hugh Jackman and Deborra-Lee were regarded as one of Hollywood's most enduring couples for over 30 years. Hugh frequently expressed his affection and the significance of his wife in his life. The strains of celebrity, busy jobs, raising 2 kids, and continual public attention did not break their marriage. Hugh's remarks in public gave the impression that their relationship was quite stable for years. That's why many people found it so hard to comprehend what happened after their split. After being together for over 30 years, Hugh and Deborra-Lee announced their separation in September 2023. They explained the choice as part of a shift in their path and a desire to pursue personal development in their well-written statement. Neither of them discussed what had transpired within their marriage in public. In particular, Deborra-Lee remained extremely silent. She didn't start a public campaign against Hugh. She didn't clarify her position in a number of interviews. She mostly kept her personal thoughts to herself, despite the fact that the split was still being discussed in newspapers, TV shows, and entertainment websites. As Hugh's friendship with Sutton Foster gained greater attention, that began to alter. Sutton and Hugh originally collaborated on The Music Man's Broadway revival. The production ran for about a year after rehearsals started in 2022. Along with performing interviews and promotional work, the two artists were on stage almost every night, spending a significant amount of time together. There were rumors that their connection had grown particularly close throughout the project. Sutton also discussed her time with Hugh prior to his appearances in public. Before taking the stage, they would converse and bond, according to the ritual she detailed. Those remarks did not necessarily imply what subsequent reports implied at the time. However, information regarding Hugh and Sutton's relationship became much more public after Hugh and Deborra-Lee split up. Later, in October 2024, Sutton filed for divorce from Ted Griffin. It became more challenging to characterize Hugh and Sutton's relationship as merely a friendship between former co-stars by January 2025, when they were being photographed together in public. Then there was still another significant change. In June 2025, Hugh and Deborra-Lee's divorce was formalized. Within months, rumors started circulating that Hugh had asked Sutton to marry him when they were on vacation in Costa Rica for the New Year. According to some accounts, Hugh had previously informed those close to him about the engagement. Deborra-Lee seems to have found the incident particularly upsetting due to the stated rapidity of the developments. She had been married to Hugh for over 30 years, and all of a sudden she was witnessing her ex-husband pursue a second marriage. People who were close to Deborra-Lee said that it was a tremendous jab in the teeth to see Hugh and Sutton together. Without a lengthy explanation, such a succinct statement conveys a lot. And since Deborra-Lee had finally decided to talk about what she thought went wrong, the betrayal, the wedding announcement, might not be the most illuminating aspect of what transpired. Deborra-Lee remained silent about her marriage to Hugh Jackman for over 2 years following their split. She mostly avoided public disputes and refrained from giving in-depth interviews about Hugh or the reasons their relationship ended, even though the separation became a big entertainment story. Her last word choice became much more crucial because of that stillness. One word stood out above the others when Deborra-Lee eventually talked about the situation in further detail: betrayal. She talked of a deep hurt and characterized the time as a difficult trip. The couple's carefully chosen phrase when they originally announced their split was significantly different from those statements. Hugh and Deborra-Lee announced their divorce in a joint statement in September 2023. There was no explanation of what had gone wrong or finger-pointing in the statement. Rather, it said that they wished to seek personal development and characterized their circumstances as a shift in their path. That phrasing was composed, courteous, and purposefully constrained. No accusation was made in public. Who made the choice, and why were not explained in full. Additionally, the statement did not provide the public with a comprehensive picture of what had transpired in private. Deborra-Lee used the same strategy for a considerable amount of time. When she was at a movie event in May 2024, Someone asked her what she had learned the year before. She just stated that she had discovered her strength and resilience, without addressing Hugh, their marriage, or the rumors surrounding their breakup. The response was succinct, but it was also insightful. She didn't take the chance to chastise Hugh. She didn't talk about Sutton Foster. She did neither affirm nor refute the numerous reports that were being released on the marriage's dissolution. Rather, she concentrated on herself and the lessons she had discovered at a challenging time in her life. Because of this, her subsequent usage of the word treachery is very noteworthy, saying that a marriage ended because two individuals decided to follow different paths and claiming that the experience contained betrayal are two very different things. According to the first description, a relationship just reached a turning point when both parties realized that their lives needed to change. The second implies that one individual was severely offended by the other's decisions or behaviors. The full context of the term was not made public by Deborra-Lee. She did not provide a comprehensive account of what happened or level a specific charge against Hugh. However, the fact that she used the phrase at all demonstrated that, in contrast to the neutral language used in the first separation announcement, her internal interpretation of the split was far more traumatic. Hugh's involvement with Sutton Foster during The Music Man has been reported, which makes that distinction crucial. According to a number of accounts, Hugh and Sutton were quite close while working together, and an emotional bond formed prior to the public announcement of Hugh and Deborra-Lee's split. It does demonstrate that she found the dissolution of her marriage to be quite traumatic. It is also important that she chose to keep quiet for so long. Her later remarks would have been seen as part of a public dispute between two ex-spouses if she had attacked Hugh in interviews right away. Rather, she remained silent for a considerable amount of time. Her last comment had a different weight because of that constraint. She had previously observed the ongoing public discussion without providing a thorough explanation of her own. She had not openly attempted to influence how others perceived Hugh and had instead let him pursue his profession. She seemed to be thinking about what had transpired for a long time before using more forceful rhetoric. We could finally understand what she meant by treachery and what transpired behind the scenes where everything changed if she ultimately shared the entire tale in her own words. Going back to Broadway is vital to comprehend why Hugh Jackman and Sutton Foster became such an important part of the narrative surrounding Hugh's divorce from Deborra-Lee Furness. Hugh and Sutton were getting ready for The Music Man's comeback in 2022. The COVID-19 pandemic had already caused significant production delays, but rehearsals for the show's February 2022 premiere were finally underway. Sutton portrayed Marion Peru, while Hugh played Harold Hill. Sutton was joining a well-known Hollywood celebrity as more than just another actress. With several Tony Awards and years of theater experience, she was already among Broadway's most esteemed actors. The two had a lot in common professionally, since Hugh also had a lot of theater experience. They had a very demanding work environment. After a few weeks of not filming a movie, they parted ways. They were getting ready for a live stage show, which meant travel, press engagements, rehearsals, and performances all the time. They were performing together every night once the show debuted. A timetable like that fosters a tight working connection. In front of an audience, the performers must have great chemistry, interact often, and have faith in one another. And it was obvious that Hugh and Sutton clicked. Sutton talked positively of her bond with Hugh in interviews related to the project. One of the nicest elements of working on the play, according to her, was the time they spent catching up and chatting before performances. Hugh also posted pictures and videos of their rehearsals and frequently complimented her. Although their intimate relationship was not publicly confirmed at the time, subsequent stories altered people's perceptions of those times. Working on The Music Man had brought Hugh and Sutton very close. According to some sources, their connection has become a public secret among those involved in the production. Deborra-Lee was allegedly caught off guard when she ultimately found out about the connection, according to one insider. These assertions are crucial to the plot, but they must be handled with caution. There have been reports of Hugh and Sutton allegedly having an emotional affair, and some individuals have made more assertive accusations regarding their connection. However, until it has been independently verified, neither a physical nor an emotional affair should be portrayed as an established truth. A full description of what transpired during the marriage has not been made public by the parties involved. It's evident that time became crucial. Hugh and Deborra-Lee celebrated their anniversary in public in April 2023. A few weeks later, The pair made an appearance together at the May Met Gala. They seemed to the general public to be the same long-married couple that they had been observing for many years. After 27 years of marriage, they then declared their separation. On the 15th of September, 2023, there was no hint in the statement itself of any personal problems that may have influenced the choice. Hugh and Deborra-Lee respectfully explained how their lives had changed and expressed a desire to pursue personal development. However, people naturally began examining the time frame when Hugh and Sutton's connection came to light. All of a sudden, there was a lot more focus on the time period surrounding the music guy. The two had collaborated closely for months. They have had cordial conversations about each other. Hugh and Deborra-Lee had continued to appear in public together. After that, the marriage broke down. That does not establish that anything improper occurred during the marriage or that Sutton was the reason for the divorce. However, it clarifies why the relationship between the Broadway show and the final split piqued the public's curiosity. In October 2024, the story got even more convoluted. After almost 10 years of marriage, Sutton filed for an uncontested divorce from screenwriter Ted Griffin. The October 22 filing was verified by court documents. Since there had previously been whispers about Sutton and Hugh, the timing attracted attention right away. Hugh and Sutton have yet to truly establish themselves as a couple in the public eye. However, rumors stated that they had formed a serious connection and were spending a lot of time together. The pictures followed. Hugh and Sutton were spotted together in public at the beginning of 2025, as evidenced by pictures of them holding hands. It was becoming more difficult to characterize the connection, which had hitherto been only addressed through anonymous sources, as ordinary friendship. Many people's perceptions of the entire time frame were altered as a result. The challenging question for Deborra-Lee went beyond whether Hugh had moved on after their divorce. After a divorce, people move on. The more difficult question was if their emotional detachment from one another had begun far earlier than the outward separation indicated. That's the question that still haunts the musician. Additionally, Deborra-Lee's own comments about what transpired were significantly more powerful than the first separation declaration, which makes the following section of the narrative even more intimate. Divorce wasn't that easy. The narrative of Hugh Jackman and Deborra-Lee Furness's divorce is more nuanced than the straightforward notion that they were married for 27 years, drifted apart, and made the decision to go on. On the 23rd of May, 2025, Deborra-Lee filed for divorce in New York. According to the court documents, the conditions had previously been agreed upon, and the case was uncontested. According to court documents, the divorce was approved on June 3rd. Legally speaking, the procedure proceeded really swiftly. However, this does not imply that there was nothing intricate going on behind the scenes. Hugh's career had developed from that of a young Australian actor into a multinational entertainment enterprise. Throughout the almost 30 years the couple had spent creating a life together. His role as Wolverine in the X-Men series contributed significantly to his riches. He became well known across the world for the part, which over time led to a number of significant motion pictures. In addition, he made a sizable sum of money from other films, Broadway shows, concerts, endorsements, and commercial endeavors. Another significant component of the scenario was real estate. During their marriage, Hugh and Deborra-Lee possessed considerable estates, including residences in Australia, the Hamptons, and New York. Just their property in New York has grown to be a very significant asset. Their previous Manhattan apartment, which the couple had initially bought years ago, was reportedly being sold for tens of millions of dollars in June 2025. This is crucial since splitting up a marriage with a sizable property portfolio differs greatly from splitting up a few bank accounts and personal belongings. Ownership, taxes, investment value, property sale profits, and the distribution of assets amassed during a marriage are among the issues. Concerns regarding spousal support and other financial arrangements may also arise. The precise details of the settlement between Hugh and Deborra-Lee have not been fully disclosed. The couple's combined fortune has been estimated by some entertainment media to be between $250 million and $387 million. However, such amounts should be regarded as estimations rather than an actual sum verified by the court. That distinction is important. Estimates of real estate, investments, incomes, enterprises, and other assets are typically used to determine a celebrity's stated net worth. It doesn't always indicate how much money is in a bank account. and it doesn't always indicate how much was awarded to each party in a divorce. Reports regarding Deborra-Lee's monetary settlement should be treated with the same care. Although the complete financial arrangement has not been made public, some stories claim she was happy with the settlement and earned a sizable spousal support arrangement. Hugh's friendship with Sutton Foster is another aspect of the narrative that has drawn notice. Hugh reportedly had no intention of signing a prenuptial agreement with Sutton. That is not supported by publicly accessible court records. Rather, it is a claim made by entertainment sources. As a result, it has to be handled cautiously. The disparity is still intriguing, though, if the allegations are true. Hugh had been married to Deborra-Lee for about 30 years, during which time he amassed immense riches. According to reports, he had already amassed wealth when he started his next significant engagement. Naturally, this raises concerns about how someone who has already gone through a significant divorce could handle money in a new long-term partnership. However, money is more than just numbers. Financial arrangements might also have emotional significance after a nearly 30-year marriage. Deborra-Lee wasn't only observing Hugh's career from the sidelines as he rose to international prominence. As his work obligations grew more demanding, she served as his spouse, co-parent, and member of the family unit. She also kept up her own employment and supported causes that were significant to her, including adoption reform. Oscar and Ava, their children, grew up during those years of significant career transition. That does not establish Deborra-Lee made certain professional compromises that she now regrets, nor does it imply that every income Hugh earned is equally theirs. It only clarifies why profoundly personal financial issues might arise in a lengthy marriage involving hundreds of millions of dollars. The Manhattan property is another. According to the evidence in this tale, Deborra-Lee bought the penthouse for about $1.7 million just before she filed for divorce. That particular narrative, however, is not supported by the publicly accessible reporting I could find. Rather, the ex-couple reportedly decided to split the money after purchasing their Manhattan apartment jointly years prior. The personal narrative behind those choices was only starting to surface, even though the legal paperwork may have been quietly resolved. Deborra-Lee's sacrifice. Deborra-Lee Furness had her own career before she became well-known worldwide as Hugh Jackman's wife. She wasn't a little-known actress who rose to fame overnight after being married to a Hollywood celebrity. She really had a lot more work experience than Hugh when they first met. Before starting her acting career in the U.S., Deborra-Lee received training at the American Academy of Dramatic Arts in New York. After making an appearance on the TV show Falcon Crest, she went back to Australia to continue developing a reputable career. In the 1988 Australian film Shame, she played one of her most significant early parts. Major accolades for her performance included the Australian Film Critics Circle's Best Actress Award. She was already well known in Australia when she made an appearance in the TV show Corelli in 1995. Hugh Jackman was at a very different stage of his career. When he was cast in Corelli, he was 25 years old and had just finished theater school. It was his debut role as a professional actor. At the age of 38, Deborra-Lee had already worked in the field for many years. According to both of their testimonies, Deborra-Lee was originally concerned about the implications of their 13-year age gap. She was aware that, particularly in the entertainment sector, where age and attractiveness were frequently addressed, people would have judgments about an older lady dating a younger man. However, it is said that Hugh did not consider the age difference to be an issue. The connection progressed swiftly. Hugh proposed to her a few months later, and the two were married on the 11th of April, 1996, at St. Trinity Product of Allium, John's Church in Turlock, Melbourne. Hugh was 27 and she was 40. Neither of them could have predicted how drastically Hugh's career would shift at that time. Hugh transformed from a young Australian actor to one of the most well-known celebrities in the world during the ensuing years. His career was completely changed by his portrayal of Wolverine in the X-Men movies. He went on to become a huge movie star, a Broadway performer, an award show host, and one of the entertainment industry's most often discussed personalities. Deborra-Lee was by his side during that metamorphosis, but being next to a worldwide celebrity may lead to stresses that aren't always captured on camera. Hugh's career included years of travel, international exposure, theatrical obligations, lengthy production schedules, and filming in many nations. Decisions made by the family have to accommodate such needs. Deborra-Lee continued to pursue her own hobbies and profession at the same time. She kept working on projects that were important to her, acting and producing, but the family also had obligations that could not be ignored every time Hugh was given a significant chance. Their lives had to be planned around 2 jobs, 2 kids, and a timetable that was getting more and more difficult. Their path to parenting was also quite challenging. Deborra-Lee and Hugh underwent IVF in an attempt to conceive biological children. They both had miscarriages, which they have discussed in public over the years. They ultimately chose to adopt as a result of the extremely unpleasant experience. Oscar, their son, and Ava, their daughter, were adopted in 2000 and 2005, respectively. Deborra-Lee did not only embrace adoption as a part of her life narrative, it started to play a significant role in her public efforts. She spent years discussing the issues encountered by adopted families and children in Australia and developed into a fervent supporter of adoption reform. She tried to lessen the stigma associated with adoption and advocated for systemic improvements. Because it revealed a different aspect of her identity, that piece was significant. Naturally, Hugh dominated public discourse for a large portion of their marriage. He appeared on magazine covers and television broadcasts all around the world as the Wolverine star, leading man, and superstar. Despite having her own profession and causes, Deborra-Lee was frequently presented through their friendship. She also had to contend with ongoing public criticism. People made comments about their age difference for decades. Some wondered how long the marriage would endure. Due to Hugh's increasing notoriety, fans, entertainment writers, and photographers frequently scrutinized their relationship. For the most of that time, Deborra-Lee continued to openly back him. Raising a family while one parent has an exceptionally demanding job also requires many practical considerations. Their lives included moving between places, juggling lengthy filming schedules, juggling school and family obligations, and deciding when each individual could take a job. To presume that Deborra-Lee regretted any of her choices would be unjust. There is no public indication that she saw her whole life with Hugh as anything she sacrificed for him, because marriage entails decisions made together. However, those decisions nonetheless had an impact on her life, and it is now unclear what those last years actually entailed behind closed doors. Hugh sold the world, the love story. When Hugh Jackman was questioned about his marriage for years, he was extremely clear about one thing. He loved Deborra-Lee Furness. He didn't say this just once or twice. She was frequently mentioned by Hugh as the one who had helped him from the start of his career. He frequently referred to their friendship as one of the most significant aspects of his life and acknowledged her for keeping him grounded. For decades, that popular perception persisted. Hugh talked about Deborra-Lee with the same love even after he became a global celebrity thanks to Wolverine and the X-Men. He uploaded pictures of their lives together and celebrated their anniversaries on a regular basis. One of the most obvious instances was their 25th wedding anniversary in 2021. Hugh penned a heartfelt note about their relationship and included pictures from their wedding. He talked about how being married to Deborra-Lee seemed totally natural and how his love for her had grown stronger over time. From the outside, it appeared to be proof that their marriage was still solid. That's why it's so hard to reconcile the conclusion with those outdated claims. After 27 years of marriage, Hugh and Deborra-Lee announced their divorce in September 2023. Although the statement was polite and well-written, it provided the public with very little information on the reasons for the breakup. The stories regarding Hugh and Sutton Foster then surfaced. During the months they spent working closely together on the Broadway production of The Music Man, their connection had grown. According to later rumors, their relationship had turned sexual. After Hugh and Deborra-Lee split up, Hugh and Sutton ultimately started dating in public. People looked back to Hugh's previous remarks on his marriage as a result of that time frame. When he made those statements, were they entirely sincere? Did his emotions subsequently shift? Had issues already arisen in private while he was still publicly praising Deborra-Lee? Deborra-Lee's silence becomes crucial since only those in the marriage can genuinely respond to such questions. She had nearly 2 years to explain her version of events or openly criticize Hugh. Rather, she mostly declined to do so. Even when asked what she had learned from the separation, she chose to talk about being stronger and more resilient rather than Hugh. People's perceptions of her subsequent remarks were altered by such constraint. People naturally wanted to know what had transpired behind the scenes when she ultimately recounted her experience as including treachery and a profound hurt. Deborra-Lee has reportedly thought about publishing a memoir on her marriage, divorce, and post-divorce life. She allegedly kept thorough personal notes during the split, which have occasionally been referred to as a divorce diary, according to certain publications. Here, caution is crucial. Reports of a possible memoir have mostly come from sources rather than a published book or thorough confirmation by Deborra-Lee herself, and the existence and contents of such a diary have not been fully proved in public. If she does write one, though, it may significantly alter the plot. For over 30 years, interviews, photos, red carpet appearances, anniversary postings, and carefully crafted comments were the main ways that the world learned about Hugh and Deborra-Lee's marriage. A memoir is not the same. Deborra-Lee could recount the entire narrative, including how they first met on Corelli and why she first doubted their age gap would work. She could talk about their losses and IVF procedures, their struggles to conceive, and their choice to adopt Oscar and Ava. She could describe Hugh's life as his career took off, and he rose to become one of the biggest movie stars in the world. She may also talk about the years she spent with the music guy, including what she knew and didn't know, as well as when she first became aware that something had changed in the marriage. What do you believe actually transpired between Deborra-Lee and Hugh? For more celebrity tales you won't want to miss, please let us know in the comments, and remember to like and subscribe.